Yes.
So, welcome back to our second session of our seminar, Improving Listening Skills, English Language Teaching. Remember, let's try to keep our mics off during the session so that we can avoid having background noises and interruptions in the presentation. We we invite you to keep your cameras on the most of the time so that Dr. John can interact properly with each one of us. I want to share this quote that says, "The first duty of love is to listen." And that was said by Paul Tillich. And so it is easy to be a good listener. The English Department Coordinating Committee, which is confirmed by our colleagues Marisol Ortega, Victor Lopez, Belsis Bishop, Suri Palacios, Joel Alvarez, and Veronica Ford, with the support of the Extension and Continuing Education Coordination, Professor Florencio Diaz, who is the director, and Edikel Santimateo, who is the administrative coordinator of the College of Humanities from Universidad de Panama, has the pleasure to welcome you to our second day of seminar of our third seminar 2023 on online modality. So we hope that what was said yesterday, you could enhance it with your assignment, and today you will enhance or gather or acquire a new process of knowledge during the session of today. To begin, officially we'll call on Professor Marisol Ortega, who is coordinator of the Long-Term Education Committee of the English Department of the College of Humanities from Universidad de Panama. She will greet the participants on this day.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you again on this second day of our seminar, Improving Listening Skills in English Language Teaching. Listening, something so important. There is a quote that look at my camera. It's not being with me today, but anyway, the quote that Professor Veronica said. I mean, listening is an act of love. I mean that like I just got into my heart like, oh, that's so nice. You see, so many times we miss listening, real listening to people, to what they are really saying. So I guess we have to pay more attention to make it
Yes,
a
we
real
have
act
to.
of love. So with that, thank you for being here. God bless you all. And let's begin, Veronica.
Okay, we want to welcome once more our speaker and our participants, because without you, the seminar will not be a reality. Thanks for believing in us. Enjoy our second session. We are sure that Dr. John will make this seminar innovative, and she is going to talk to us about instructional strategies to promote the learner's use of metacognitive processes, planning, monitoring, evaluating, to improve the process of listening, SMART goals. So with no other delay, we are going to listen to Dr. John Rubin.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see you all. And as I say, I'm finding it a little difficult. I've done it online, but it's a little difficult if I don't see your face. I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to a wall. Anyway, what I think we could start with, because we should have done it yesterday, is one of you will tell me or tell us where you teach and what level you teach. Okay, Alejandra, can you start?
Okay, Professor. I'm not teaching the last semester at the University of Panama. I'm not teaching that they don't give me material, give me subjects. I don't know why, because the change of administration. But I hope to teach this year. I don't know. I'm in Banco de Datos, the administrative for be allowed to teach, but I teach in licenciatura,
Short
bachelor degree, yeah, for beginners. Sometimes
Alejandra, short, because there's a whole bunch of us.
okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of things. I want if you teach, where you teach and what level. Just 2 sentences, because we're a lot of people now. And everybody who has come in, please turn on your camera so I can see you. No secrets from me. All right. Cyrus, can you tell us if you teach, where you teach, and what level?
Sure, Professor. Well, I'm not working as a teacher this year. I did last year for private school, but I also have been working for the official schools, all grades, all levels. I mean, since first year, first level until 12. So, different subjects also. And well, I'm still waiting for Meduca to have something this year.
Okay, good. The other thing I would like to hear is where you are. I don't care whether you're teaching or not. So where you are, if you're teaching, what level you're teaching, and that's it. 3 sentences at most. Okay. Isabella.
Well, in this moment, excuse the mess I have, but I don't teach. I'm a student at the bachelor's degree, English bachelor's degree at the Universidad de Panama. So I'm currently to start the 3rd year of this degree, but I'm not teaching at any level or any institution at the moment.
Okay, and then Hilda, something's going. Hilda is turning around on us. What's going on, Hilda? Come on, Hilda. Talk to me.
You need to turn on your mic. You are muted, Hilda.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. I have a personal appointment now, so I will hear the class and going. So, but this year I don't working. Last year I didn't neither, but I have experience being a teacher because I work in is Francolón. I'm Francolón, and I work in the school Crispino Ceballos bilingual school.
Thank you. Welcome, Karen. So 3 sentences at most. Karen Olson.
Hi, sorry. I'm currently working now. I'm teaching high schools. I finish at 1:30, and I teach also adults at INADE. So that is what I do.
Where are you?
Where I am now? At a high school. I'm teaching now.
What place in Panama? What city in Panama? Huh? What city in Panama?
Panama City.
Okay, all right. Anna, Melissa, how about you? Turn your sound on.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm currently studying. I'm in the University of Panama in the Faculty of Education to be a teacher. So yeah, I'm not teaching. I'm not teaching.
You're here in town.
I'm here in Panama, yes.
Okay, good.
I'm studying to
By
be a
the
teacher.
way, what we're going to learn in the next several days doesn't just apply to listening. It applies to anything you do. I'm going to be talking today, I think, about goal setting. You can use it anywhere, anytime, and we'll show you how that happens. Okay, Karen Narango. Unmute yourself, Anna, mute yourself again.
Hello, good afternoon, nice to meet you. Okay, I'm professor in the National University right now, but I have been experienced in elementary school too, with kindergarten, pre-K too, and also with the students in another ages. And well, I love to teach I love to teach English.
Good.
So right now, if you look at me, for example, with this toy, is because my baby is in front of me. She's in the play right now. So I'm talking to you, but I have to, to see because she can take some things. And
well, one of the things about if it's not fun, people are not going to learn. They need, I don't care what age, not fun. It's good you have that. Hilda, you're off in the trees.
What happened?
Hilda. Oh, Hilda Jules, is she there? Oh. Okay, she there? She's okay. Let's try.
Hilda just spoke a while
there
ago.
you are, Hilda. Can you turn yourself around? Tell us about yourself. Where are you? And if you teach, what level? Undo your audio.
I think Hilda just spoke.
He's what?
Hilda just spoke a while ago. Remember, she had a problem with her camera that it was going around.
Okay, so let's go on to Alejandra. Can you tell us where you are, where you're working, and if you're teaching or not?
Yeah, sometimes I work at the university, Group Veraguas, Centro Regional Universitario de Veraguas, sometimes in Edudelas. This year I am in Edudelas teaching English and psychology because I'm psychology too.
Wonderful. I'm not going to ask you, Marisol. All right, you go. Belsis. Adriana, I don't see a picture. Can I see a picture? Adriana, where'd she go? Adriana, oh, there you are. Okay, tell us about yourself.
Right now I'm working in the language center of the Universidad de Panamá and giving English courses, actually. And sometimes during the semester, some subjects in different faculties for the English department.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's perfect. Eileen, can you tell us a little about yourself? What I'm asking is, where are you? Where do you teach? If you teach, where do you teach? Want to connect? Eileen.
Good afternoon. Yeah, well, I'm currently not working as a teacher. I have worked before as a primary school teacher. I have a bachelor degree in English, and I'm just taking these diploma courses.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. De Alexander, number 822, De Alexander. Is that your first name? Alexander, you there? Inelda? How about Inelda? I don't see your face. Inelda, there you are. Please, yes, thank you.
You told me.
Turn on your audio.
I'm sorry, I just got home. I am teaching at Jose Antonio Ramon Cantera High School. I'm from Los Santos, but I live in Arraiján.
In where?
I'm from Los Santos, but I live in Arraiján.
Okay, good, thank you. Did I hear you? Okay. How about Alexander? Are you there? How about Galaxy A21? Maria Isabel.
Yes,
Maria?
hi, Professor. Good afternoon. Yes, hi. Yes, I am Maria Isabel. I work at the University of Panama in higher education in Cruzan. Cruzan is one branch of the University of Panama in Distrito de San Miguelito.
Okay. Alexander, did you come by? Okay, let me ask a question. I know traffic is very bad here. Is there any chance that at least one day you could come to the university? You all work at the university or not? It would be so nice to work with you in person. So if some of you would let me know, and if you can come, it's in the afternoon, so you can, getting here isn't a problem. Going home is always a problem. I'm out at Casa Bonita near the Westin Playa Bonita, and going home at 5 o'clock is a horror, but still, it would be very helpful if you could. Oh, Javier, are you there?
Excuse me, I could go.
What's that? How many of you think you could possibly come to at least one or more sessions? There's Isabella. Anybody else? Isabella.
Karen
Yeah. I can't know. Who turned this on?
We cannot see you, Dr. John. I assuming that the 4 hands that are raised is because you are confirming that you can come to the university.
Yes.
So that means that is Osiris, Alejandra, Adriana, and Isabella. And Enelda.
¿Esas son las que pueden o las que no pueden?
Las que pueden.
Ah, las que pueden, sí.
Solo las que pueden, ¿ya?
Sorry, I had
And
a bad connection. What did the professor ask?
The professor asked if there were any one of you that can join her in face-to-face at the university.
Okay.
In the following sessions. So if you can, then you need to let her know. If you cannot, then you join on Zoom.
This week? Or
yeah, this week.
One day or the 3 days that
Dr. Joan?
Yes,
they are
because
asking,
say at least one day.
Exactly.
Actually, she said at least a day to one of the sessions.
Yes, she said at least a
only
day.
one day, only one day. If it's a day, I can, but 3 days, I cannot because I live in Santiago de Veraguas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know. You told us. Yeah.
Professor,
that's very far away.
Has the audio off. I don't know why.
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Professor Joan. You need to turn on your mic.
Is that better?
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Machines. They'll get you every time. Technology will get you every time. So I would like you, if possible, to come on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, we'll explain a little bit later, is going to be a virtual, not this Friday. We'll have to schedule another time because I'm going to be out of town for a professional reason on Friday. But I'd like to have a show of hands. I don't want 2 people because doesn't work very well. How many people, why don't you, here's a hand, here's a hand, here's a hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any other hands? Or would be nice. Anybody else can come to?
Okay, I wrote that Isabela, Osiris, Alejandra, Adriana, and Enelda, they raised their hands confirming they could come.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
They said that at least one day.
I'm sorry, Veronica. I can be. I was confused, so I can be because I mean it's hard for me.
Okay, so
okay.
no Enelda.
Okay, how many you have now? Anybody else? Okay, that's good. We'll work with 4. You have 4 or how many?
3 people.
3.
3 people.
Anybody else can make it? Okay.
So it's Osiris,
If you change your mind, let us know.
No, Osiris, Adriana,
All right.
and Isabela.
Abdiel, I'd like you to put your picture on. Javier, please put your picture on. Maria Isabel, put your picture on. Okay, I wanted to talk about yesterday's homework. And I think we need to be clear about the difference between product versus process. They are different. What is product refer to? What does product refer to? It was in the hand, it was in the screen. What does product refer to? Somebody help.
Well,
product, you said that it was the language, and then the process is the skills that the learner uses to listen.
Yep. All right. So let me give you some examples. If the lesson is that product or process, teaching students greetings, product or process.
Repeat that, please.
How many vote for product?
What's your question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you repeat your question?
My question is, if the lesson is teaching greetings, is that a product or a process? Product.
It's a process.
Is it product or process?
Process.
Well, who said process?
Enelda.
I'm vote for process, Professor.
Okay, let's think about it. What process has to do with strategies that you use to listen? And some of you mentioned some strategies like making inferences, using cognates, right? Using cognates, or things like getting people to think about their background knowledge. Notice I'm not paying attention to the language. I'm paying attention to the process. This is a very, very basic distinction you need to make for us to go any further. So if someone says is going to circulatory system is talking about the circulatory system, is that product or process? What do I need to make clearer? Anybody? Is it those of you who think it's process, talking about the circulatory system? Process of listening, not the process of moving through your circulation. How many think that talking about the circulatory system is process? Anybody? How many think it's a product? Raise your hand. Okay. What do you do?
But in this case, But in this case, I think it's a process, because what you're gonna doing is just to help students to get vocabulary so they can be able to listen later or to communicate new words to anyone else.
Okay. Very good. Let's think about it. Vocabulary. Learning vocabulary. Is that a product or process? Vocabulary is what? Vocabulary, what is vocabulary? Isn't that language?
It's language.
Of course. And therefore it's product. Now, if you have some way to help your learners memorize, right? If you give them some ideas about how to memorize vocabulary, that would be process. But the vocabulary per se, and when you introduce the vocabulary, you give it to them on a list or however you give it to them, that's a product. Questions? Okay, think about this. This one is, let me make this, well, let me hold on a minute here. What is when you are doing a product, what is the goal? What is the goal when you do a product? Javier? What is when you, okay, Isabella?
To sell it.
To what?
To sell it.
To sell it?
Yeah, when you do a product.
Don't think about business. Think about what I'm using it for here. The goal, if you are teaching language, that's a product. Because I've said that teaching language is a product. Process is, goal of process is to give people tools to listen or to speak or whatever. Tools, strategies, not language. So can someone name a process for listening? Yesterday, I mentioned several processes in my presentation. What were they? Give me one of them.
Intonation.
Look at my presentation and
intonation.
What? I heard somebody say something.
You said intonation.
You do what with information?
No, I'm sorry.
Excuse
He's
me,
saying that.
Excuse me, Dr. John. Are you sharing your screen? Because we cannot see your PowerPoint.
You're talking to the person, not me, huh?
No, I said intonation.
All right, intonation per se, that's very good. Intonation, if you teach them about intonation in English, it's still about the language, but if you teach them how to listen, that would, how to pay attention. Pay attention to the loudest word section. I want to go. I want to go. I want to go. Right? That would be teaching them about how to listen. Or John went to the store. John went to the store. John went to the store. Okay, that's not the language, it's what the emphasis is, how to listen. Who did it? If I say John went to the store, what's the answer? John. John went to the store. Where did he go? Store. So teaching intonation, if that's what you're doing and getting them to recognize what the important words are in a sentence, that's very helpful for listening. Okay, very good. What other kind of strategies for listening did I mention yesterday?
Making questions.
Makes the questions.
Making questions.
Huh?
Making questions.
Okay, who makes the questions, Anelda?
For example, you have the students to read, professors make question, and also prediction is one of the way to practice and strategy for reading, for listening comprehension.
Very
Prediction.
good. So what you're doing is you give them some information, and then you ask them to make predictions. What's going to happen? Who's going to be there? Where is it going to happen? Right? Or, as you mentioned, come right back. Yeah. What I do is ask students to, all right, you get two students together and you say, this is the title, or read the first paragraph, and make some questions for your peer, for your colleague. Okay, now closer to it. Good. So the goal of process, elicit background knowledge. Some of you got that in your homework, right? Cognates. Using cognates is a very good strategy for listening. Let them know about cognates. For example, sandwich. That's a cognate, or at least a borrowing, or banana. One of the things about cognates that is so important is, I may have said it yesterday, but I'll say it many more times. English and Spanish share 50% vocabulary. 50%, that's not 15, that's 50. What's the advantage of that? If you already know 50% of the language, it's still important. You feel motivated. Well, this is not so difficult, right? So if you share that, for example, one of the things I tell people is I can teach you 1,000 words of English in 30 seconds. Anybody believe me? Does anybody believe me? Okay, you do. Can you hear me? Am I still on? Okay, you believe me, Adriana.
Well,
right?
I do. If that 50% are the related words, yeah.
What's that?
If that 50% are the related words, I think yes.
Related words, exactly.
Yeah.
So think about the words that end in C-I-O accent N. Give me a word in Spanish that ends in C-I-O-N in Spanish. Atención, right? Institución, right? Some more. All right, now think about it. In English, how do those words end? Attention. Atención in English, attention, right? Wow, you just learned a word in English. No, you just learned one word. You learned 1,000. How about what? Give me another word that ends in either C-I-O-N or T-I-O-N.
Orientación.
Huh? What is it?
Orientación.
Orientación. Okay, what's that in English?
Orientation.
Orientation. Wow. I'm building my vocabulary without even working at it. I don't have to memorize it. Institución.
Communication, profe.
Communication.
Comunicación. Communication.
Conclusion.
Exactly. Excellent. Okay. The value of that, and it's why you don't, English has some hard parts, but vocabulary shouldn't be. There are lots of new words. English has words that are happening all the time, but we already share and teach, we share 50%. Those are called cognates. Everybody knows the word cognates, which is spelled C-O-G-N-A-T-E-S, words that come, it turns out that these are words that come from Latin. All of these are words that come from Latin. Okay? Okay. Now, in doing your lesson, any other questions? There are others, by the way, I can share with you, words that end in D-A-D in Spanish. Actividad. How do they end in English? T-Y. Activity. Natividad. Nativity. What's another one in Spanish?
Creatividad.
Huh?
Creatividad.
Creatividad. What's in English? Creativity. Now, look at that. I've given you a tool. I'm not teaching you the words. I'm teaching you, giving you a tool for learning. It's a tool. We call them strategies. Okay. Now, with regard to your lesson plan, okay, what we have found is that there are 3 ways to teach this process, strategies, 3 ways. And there was an experiment done too many years ago. What they did was they tried doing this 3 different ways. For example, something that people do all the time, fill in the blank, also technically called a close test, C-L-O-S-E. Fill in the blank, okay? For example, he went to the blank to deposit money. Okay, I can give you that exercise. He went to the blank. Now, you fill it in. Where did he go? Come on, folks. He went to the blank.
To the bank.
To the bank. How do you know that? How do you know that it's bank?
Because you go to the bank when you deposit money, right?
Right. That's where you normally deposit money. Not always, but 90% of the time.
Sometimes.
Is that a question, Maria? No, I saw a hand up. Okay. So one way would be just fill in the blank. Okay. Another would be to say, what does that mean? Name it. In this case, you were naming why, what it was that led you to say bank. So you named the strategy, and the strategy was to hook it up with the word bank, right? Or sorry, deposit. Bank, deposit, the context features you, right? So the process is use the context, okay? The next and the last one, which is the most powerful and the most effective, is not just say use the context, but also say why. So name it, use context, and say why. And why it's useful, because you're using knowledge you already have, right? Now, what was the result of this experiment? The students who were asked to just fill in the blank, no name of what they were doing, no reason why, got 50%. Right. The students who they gave the name to, okay, the students who gave the name to got about 70%. Use your context. And the students who got the name, use your context, and a reason why it's important to do so, what it does for you, got about 85%. So what is the implication of that for your lesson plan? not only to name the strategy, but also to say why it's useful. Okay? The other thing is that when we are teaching strategy, we're talking about listening strategies, people find it helpful to have a model, an example. In other words, if you're asking them to use their background knowledge, give them an example. Don't just say use your background knowledge. Give them an example and tell them why. So I hope you all are taking notes. I can't see, I don't have a blackboard easily. I guess I could share a screen. Where is that? Where is share screen? Compartir pantalla. That could be it. Let me try this. See if we get that. Okay, here's the pizarra. Can you see that? Everybody see this?
No, yet.
No,
No,
not yet,
no,
Professor.
teacher. No.
Not yet.
I want to show that. Okay.
Okay, maybe
No,
Veronica
this.
could share it for you. Okay,
There you go.
There you go.
Can
There
you
you
see
go.
that?
It's running.
Yeah.
Everybody see it?
Yeah, yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's
So what
Yes.
I want, there are 2
Just
points
wait
I
a
want
little
to,
bit.
okay, 2 points I want to make. One is in your, oops. Oh, that doesn't
yes,
work.
yes.
Huh?
That's the
How do
pizarra.
we do it? Erase. Okay, so. Oops. Huh? Get rid of that, yes. Okay, so this is one thing I want you to do when you write your lesson plans, because you'll have another one for tomorrow or tonight, is I want you to, before you present the process, whatever technique you're teaching, give them an example. So, all right, and also say why it's important. That's why. I see that. Anna, can you see it?
Model strategy. Give examples, say why is it important.
Yes, so there are 3 things you want to do. Let me put a space here.
You have to arrange the capital letter. You're writing in capital letter, but you have to arrange the other M at the beginning. Model.
This, I don't know how to get rid of it. Let me see. A borrar. Okay, let me see if I can borrar. Okay. Is that clear? Can you read it?
Yes,
Hello?
perfect.
Are
Give
you
us
seeing it?
say why is
Marisol, can you
important
see it?
model strategies.
What?
Okay. Give example of model strategies.
Yeah. So for example, when I spoke about what was the strategy I spoke about, how do I get it? All right, let me do it here. Give me another box, please.
Here.
Excel? Okay. So let's talk about, I want to teach you about cognates. Okay? Cognates. So I have to say, what are they? Are they? Sorry, I'm not. They are words that share historic, in this case, history with English. All right. An example. The example is we gave you atención. Where's the equal sign here? Okay, that's an example. We worked on several. Okay, then let's do this. Why is it important? Tell me why it's important. Anybody, why is it important?
To make a connection between how the Spanish language is equal or get along from English, or English has sorry, my telephone is running.
Yeah, what it does is.
Okay, I consider that cognates are important because when we're talking, we must know what we're talking about, yes? And we must know the correct definition of the words in order to talk in a good way, in order to understand and honey, silence, in order to understand and yes, in order to understand and give like the correct message to the person. For me, that's the importance of cognates. Okay. And there are true cognates and false cognates, of course.
But notice when you teach the strategy of cognates.
Sorry, I couldn't listen to.
Can't hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Professor.
Thank you. Okay, let's imagine that your job is to teach the process of listening, and one tool, one strategy is something called cognates. That's the name. I can explain. What happens is that English and Spanish both come from Latin. That's why that's there. And that,
Professor, excuse me, I have a question. So teaching with cognates is a process of listening.
yes, it is, because it's helping if you're teaching them to listen. It's a way, it is a process. I'm not teaching you the specific cognate. Then you would add to your vocabulary. But I'm using it. Who am I talking to? Karen? No, who is it?
Right. No, not Karen, but I want to say something. Cognate also is part of corrective feedback. So when students are learning, this is part of the learning process.
So what you said? I can't, this is the problem with this.
I said that cognate is part of corrected feedbacks. When students are learning, this is part of the learning process.
Yeah, as part of the learning process, good. Yes. This is why I hate this machine. I can't always hear, never mind not see you. Okay, so the point I'm making here is from a listening point of view, one strategy is to teach people about cognates and practice them. Why? Because it makes it easier to listen. You have an advantage. So what I was saying is what I'm trying to say is when you teach the process, and let me put this again. I'll see if I can use this, all right? You want to name the strategy, name it. Right, and you want to model it. An example. Mm-hmm. And then you want to say, Now, cognates can work in reading. I'm not saying they aren't good for a good strategy for reading, but you could do this. Have a short listening thing, and you ask students to listen, maybe for a minute. That's plenty for a beginner, maybe 2 minutes for someone who's more advanced. And you say, okay, I've taught you about cognates. I want you to all I want you to do is take a piece of paper and write down every cognate you hear in this section, in this passage. So that's giving them an opportunity to see if it's useful. And it may be, sometimes you got a lot of cognates, so you could almost predict the whole passage, but at least it gives students a way to practice their knowledge and see. And so we should really put this down here. Excuse me. I'm missing the word. Right, is that clear? Do we understand the difference between process and product?
I still don't have it clear. Can you please explain it again?
Okay. When you are teaching something about the language, and when you're teaching the language, how to say good morning, whatever, then that's teaching the product. But let me give you another example. I had a group of students in a very poor section in Puebla, Mexico, okay? And very commonly, at some level, you get a conversation. Good morning, my name is, what's your name? Where are you from? Tell me the name. Do you have a family? That's something the students are expected to memorize. Okay, that's teaching the language. Well, this group of students, as I remind you, came from a very poor part of town, and they barely were able to repeat the conversation. What happened? I said, well, let's try it another way. You need to look at the structure of a conversation. The structure of a conversation. A conversation has greetings. It has usually small talk. Nice weather. What do you think of that game? Ball game. What a pretty dress. That's all small talk. Everybody familiar with the term small talk? Some of you not, maybe. Where's the L? Small talk. So normally when you see somebody, anyone, you usually say something like good morning or hello or how are you? And then you very often say, oh, what a pretty dress. Oh, what nice earrings. Did you go to the movies yesterday? That's small talk. Okay. And then might have a more serious conversation, right? And that serious conversation could be something you want from that person or information, whatever. And then finally, you say goodbye. So bye, see you tomorrow, or nice to see you. Say hello to so-and-so. That's the very simple structure of a conversation. I can make it more complicated, but for this purpose, let's make it simple. What's the structure? It has 4 parts: greetings, small talk, optional serious talk, finally, goodbye. Okay, I taught that not me, but my students taught this to this group of kids from a poor section of Puebla, Mexico. Okay? Oh, it's hot. Anyway, you know what happened? I gave them a tool. The tool was the structure of a conversation. That's process. It's a tool. I'm not teaching them the language, I'm teaching them the structure. What happened was, not only were these kids able to carry on a conversation in class, they were carrying on conversations in English outside of class. That's the power of process. The process gives you a way to get further than you would otherwise. Otherwise, the poor kids were memorizing the conversation, right? They memorized the conversation. They didn't know how to use it. That was it. Does that make it clearer? Who was it? Isabella, you were the one that was having trouble? Does everybody, can I see a show of hands of how many of you have a better idea of process versus product? Because this is very basic. We can't go anywhere without it. Let me see a vote of hands. Let me see in the chat. Maybe in the chat, let me see. Oh, okay. Everybody, can you use your chat function and tell me if you now understand the difference between process versus product? And if you do not, let me know why. Everybody, I'm not going anywhere till I see some answer. Do you understand the difference between product versus process? And if not, what else do you need to understand it?
I just want to make sure. Okay, when we teach the language, you're teaching the process. No, sorry, the product. But when you teach how to get there to be able to produce that language, that's the process.
Perfect.
Is that it? Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And, they work together. It's not, what you're doing is leveraging, giving them tools to leverage their listening. Leverage. Okay, I need a, that's very good, Marisol. Huh?
Would you repeat that again?
Marisol, can you repeat it?
Okay. When you teach the language, you teach the product. For example, if I teach you good morning, hello, how are you? That's the product. But if I teach you how to get there, and how to order that language, how to get there to produce that language, okay, then I'm teaching you the process.
How to listen, right? How to listen.
Exactly.
And I have many. I am going to give you 3 basic tools for helping your students listen, but you need to understand the difference between product and process. Most of you have, those of you who had education courses, who've been teaching, if you look at the textbook, or if I look at some of your lesson plans, you are teaching product. And I need, those of you who know that I will send you a message because I want you to revise. I can't give you a pass-fail grade if you don't have process, because that's what this whole workshop is about. It's about process, how to facilitate listening by giving the students the tools to listen. We're giving them the tools, not, you're going to get, I'm sure you will teach them language, but they need the tools to listen. So how many of you, who still has a question?
I do not have a question, but I see this
Right,
like,
can you?
can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Anna
Yes?
says,
Yes, I can hear
Isabella
you.
Yes.
says she's not, doesn't
Okay,
quite get it.
I don't have a question, but I can say that the process is like product
I'm sorry, the
is
sound is so
output.
bad. Excuse me. The sound on this
Tiene mucho
machine
ruido allí,
is
por
so
eso no puedo.
bad that I can't understand you. Can you write it in the chat? Put it in the chat. There's such an echo on this machine. Amy.
Too much people there.
Professor,
Okay.
suppose the student has to put the microphone off in when you are speaking, and when we need to ask question, we have to open the microphone, but otherwise it happens. That's the reason I put it off like this.
Oh, well, it's one reason why if you were here, we would be able to do it a lot better. So please reconsider coming to class, to my taller. Okay. But please, do you have a chat? Do you know about chat? Can you please write in the chat any comments you have? Because some of you do not have somewhere there's a bad microphone. So please, I'm looking at the chat right now and I don't see anybody. Anna Melissa said that she is studying and not a teacher. But Anna, you need to be able to distinguish between what is language and what is process. That's what we're going to spend the next 4 days working on, is process. I'm not going to work on the language. I'm going to teach you some processes. Well, that's a good product. Well, what you hear, in a sense, sure. Oh, see, it could apply anywhere. Right. So some of the strategies that I will be teaching you could have been different subjects. It's been used in math. It's been used in nursing. Tools, yes, strategies to improve. Very good, Ivy. That's good. Process is tools or strategies to improve listening. Sarah, sounds like you got it. How about other people? Let's have some more comments. I'm not going anywhere until we know what we're talking about. All of us. Let's have some more comments. Don't understand? Tell me. We'll work on it. Anna, you say you are studying. Well, as a student, mostly what you're getting is subject matter. That's product. But I'll bet you have some processes to be successful. Like for example, if you take an exam, a very good process is to anticipate the questions. Anticipate the questions before you take. Someone told me they were studying for the TOEFL. What did they do? They looked at the structure of the TOEFL, what kinds of questions there are, right? That is process. Figuring out how to do it most successfully, not, what you're studying, not the actual thing. If you're studying history, well, what's a good way, what's a good way to approach history? I find that I'm not very good at history, but when someone gives me a story about a person in history, then I get a little more interested. So stories are ways of helping me learn history. Okay, 4 new messages. Okay, let's look for them. Words, yeah. Sentences, according to Kaufman, 7. That's right. Very good, Alejandra. That's what a cognate is. And it's a very useful tool. All right. What else? That's it. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Okay. So it sounds like for some of you, the word cognate is a new word if you're not teaching. Most teachers should have run into the term cognate. Okay. Why don't we do this? It's 2:15, and we're not going to take a break at the moment, but I want everybody, wherever you are, to raise your hands. Let me see your hands up in the air. You've been thinking so. Your hands up in the air, up, down, up. Yeah, get them moving. Make your body, that's right. Come on, everybody, Javier and Karen and Rango. Let me see you doing that. Woo! And move your shoulders. Doesn't that feel good? Sitting so long? Okay, Karen Arango, let me see your hands up in the air. Good. All right, now we're ready to go back to start the class. Okay?
I'm here.
Whose shoulders are often when you're sitting at a computer.
I'm here. I'm sorry. Apparently, I have to move with my baby. Okay.
Okay.
So for that reason, yes, but I'm listening every single word that you are saying. So
okay,
don't
thank
worry.
you, Karen. Hold your
here.
baby. All right, let's get here.
Yes, I'm here. So I'm feeding my baby. So for that reason, I have to move, but I'm here.
Anybody else has a question?
No, I consider that false cognate or true cognate or cognates as a whole is a good topic because when people, or for example, when our partners that are right now, the students that are there or that are here, sorry, that are here in this meeting, they must know about true cognates and false cognates because they're getting the language. So this topic is very important because in the way that you learn the language, that way you will teach the language. Yes?
1 minute.
What's going on?
So what is it? What happened? What? Let me see if I understood. As I say, the sound here is terrible. But what is normally
the sound is terrible. The sound is terrible. Yeah. Okay, what I was saying that I consider that this topic is very important because here in this session, in this Zoom session, there are some students, they are getting the language. So it's very important because the way you get the language is the way you are going to teach. So it's very important to know about many things, about false cognates, true cognates, because of course, it's not the same to say I'm for example, some people confuse embarrass with embarazada, that is in Spanish. And the correct word is pregnant. Yes.
So for cognates have their drawbacks, let's say. Some words are not the same. Libreria, biblioteca, those are what we call false cognates. But
yes,
95%, if you want, you can teach them the false cognates, but 90 to 95% work. And I use them all the time. Sometimes it isn't the best Spanish, but I use them all the time. What I'm saying is, when you are teaching language, there is no way that you can teach them all of English. It takes a long time. Yesterday I mentioned for people to learn Spanish reasonably well is more than 600 hours. How many hours do your students actually have? So what you need to do is give them a tool so they can learn on their own. They can continue to learn when you're not there. They know how to do it. The way that we got here, how did we get to this? My being able to be so confident about what I'm talking about. Years ago, and I won't say how many, but years ago, everybody was spending a lot of time how to teach, what the methodology is, you know, what you're supposed to do as a teacher. You have to have the same methodology, the same control of the classroom, etc. Okay. I came on the idea that maybe instead of paying so much attention to the teacher, some of us learn languages, most of you, I think, very well, very quickly. It's an easy thing to do. And my question at that time was, what do successful expert learners do? And so we collected a lot of information over many years. And this is what we call expert learners do. And the question I asked was, can we teach that to students who are not as successful? And you don't worry about the ones who are successful. They already have the tools. Each one different tools, but everybody has them. And I think if I asked each of you to write a diary about how you learned English, okay, and it'd be different. But what we're doing is a lot of people, they may be successful in history or math, who knows, pharmacology, but when they come to language, they don't know how to do it. So what we're doing is helping them become better learners and leverage the knowledge that they have. Okay? Any other comments?
Yes, Professor. I have some questions because I'm not still getting it. So when you refer to the process, you're referring to the strategies.
Yes.
The strategies, like for example, the cognates. That is a
one
strategy. That's one strategy.
Or use your
And
background knowledge. That's a
okay.
strategy, right?
And then the product, I mean, the product refers to the words. I mean,
The
I'm not
words-
explaining them as per se, but there are the words, like I'm mentioning them, expressing them, but I'm not explaining it specifically to you, like how to get there. So when do you not explain how to get there, you're referring to the product only.
That's right. If you don't explain, if you don't facilitate the process, you're not going to be as successful. You're giving tools to your students so because every one of us, let me say one more thing, every one of us has different background knowledge that we can use. Every one of us has different experiences. I don't care if you grew up in the same family, your experience and your brother or sister's experience were different, even within the same family, right? Your goals are different. You know, some people want to be able to give a lecture in English. Some people want what we call survival English. Some people want to be able to listen. They're called TED Talks. So everybody has different goals, what they want to do with it. And so what we're saying is help them get in touch with their goals and their knowledge and all of that to facilitate the process of learning and in particular listening. Does that make it clear? Who was it that asked the question? Was it you, Isabel?
Yes, I just have a comment. I just found the words like how to express it. And I think I'm confused because I think of product, I mean the term itself, but not in regards to business, to something that you do when you are taught something. For example, what be the product of a lecture that you practice the vocabulary? That would be a product. What is the product of something? I think
Well,
I get it that way. Maybe that's because I'm confused and I'm not like getting it like.
Well, I don't know what other word you used in product, but why don't you just say language versus process? That helps you. And by language, it's not just the vocabulary, it's everything there is to know about a language. The intonation in order to speak, the way people phrase things, how you communicate. That's very important. You can. Yesterday I talked about the word mañana. We don't normally, adults, say no. We find some way around to do that. And that's part of knowing about the language. There's lots of things you do and don't do that are part of the cultural aspects of a language. The language. The process is, how do you get there? How do you listen? Okay, are we there? Let's go on. I want to start today's work.
Okay, so it wouldn't be the same because when I think of product, one thing is like math. I mean, the product that derives from something. That's the logic that I'm using here. But in this case, since we're talking about linguistics, is different. I mean, the product in this case does not derive from something, but rather is what you teach. I mean, what you do as an individual. That we would be the first step.
Yeah, if it makes you uncomfortable to use the word product, then you could talk about language versus process. Oh. Okay. Oh, back. Oh, all right. Oh, I was going to do that, but we've done it already. So let's go on to the next one. All right. So I think we've talked about this pretty much this whole hour. So let's go on. All right. All right. Let's start with this one. Those of you, I haven't finished reading your homework, but I think those of you who did not introduce process, please rewrite your homework. A few of you did. They're rather abrupt. Some of them are kind of abrupt lesson plans, but I could see that you had some idea of how to get your learner aware of what they bring to the listening process, right? What they bring, obviously, are things like knowledge and experience and goals. They bring a whole bunch of things. Okay. Yeah, leave that. This question says, I can't read this. Why is listening important for L2 students? Anybody? Won't do anything. Why is it important? Well, let's look.
For second language student, it's very difficult listening because the student feel insecure about what even they feel a little bit ashamed because they could understand and they try to understand at the beginning. But later on, it's a process that takes so many times, so many past patience for the student, and they have to accomplish.
You're going to make it simpler.
Reading, listening, visual thing, visual to.
Very good. Visual is another tool.
Yeah.
It's another process. Pay attention to the pictures when you're listening. Pay attention. Now, in general, we went yesterday over the difference between listening and reading. And one of the things that makes listening so difficult is that you're not in control. You can't, your listeners are at the mercy of the speaker. Okay. So you have a lack of control over input. You don't tell people what to do. If you're reading, well, you can skip over a paragraph or you can come back to it, but you can't do that with listening. Also, spoken words are very ephemeral. They come at the listener very fast and then they're gone, right? So I could ask you, sometimes I ask you, can you repeat? But if I do that too many times, you say, I don't want to talk to her. She's not listening. Okay.
Also, I think that they have to increase their vocabulary too, because if they increase their vocabulary, I think that the student have to increase, or the learner have to increase their vocabulary, because if they increase their vocabulary, they will have a bunch of words, and they will listen, and some of the words will be similar, even if the person is talking in a fast way or in a slowly way. But I think that the key is get vocabulary first.
Well, what I find, and I have no problem speaking Spanish, in most parts of Latin America, I don't have a problem listening. But here in Panama, everything so fast. And
it's the same.
And that has nothing to do about my knowledge of the grammar or the vocabulary, occasionally, but not the vocabulary. They're just speaking. Okay, somebody raised his hand. Okay, 1 second. Remember we said, I'll get to you in a minute, Osiris, that the way you do listening, I told you yesterday, is someone speaks, it comes into your short-term memory, and you try to compare it to what you already know. And if you don't know about it, you're lost. So you can't think about it. You have to just short-term memory, long-term memory. Okay, do I understand it or not? You don't have time for reflection. Now let me go back and over here, someone asked a question. Somebody raised their hand. What is it?
Yes, it was me, Professor Osiris.
Oh yeah, what did you ask, Osiris?
Well, it's just a comment. As I have been working for, different schools and different students, most of them on a private school, they can handle and manage the language very well. So for them to listen is not that hard. It's just that they need to pay attention for what we want them to learn. But talking about official school where the student don't have any manage of the language, it's harder for us sometimes for them to pay attention because they don't know that, that expand vocabulary, and they don't know many words in English. So this is our goal in that case, to teach them many words that we can, but we don't have the time. Talking about teaching, we don't have the time or enough time during the class to teach them well. And they don't have any other place to go and practice because their parents or their family do not speak the language. So in this case, strategies is our best thing to teach them. Like I'm thinking about the cognates that you just mentioned before, because all the time when my students say like, teacher, okay, but instead of, if I want to say this, what word can I use? And I said, well, just find a synonymous, for example. But now I see that cognate will be, or will work better for them because they already know the Spanish language. So it will be much better and easier for them.
Okay, part of what you're trying to do is help them with any strategies possible. When you're talking about vocabulary, there are many strategies to learn vocabulary. In other words, how to put things in your memory. And that's a whole different subject. I have given workshops on how to learn vocabulary. There's stuff in the literature that's what's called mnemonics. How to do it, grouping words together of the same kind, setting goals. We'll talk about setting goals for vocabulary and thinking about how to learn it. But you're right, we're going to, they each, and what you want them to learn in the end is something that they want to learn. And remember, if you ask me to write a paragraph about sports, I don't care. I don't care. I happen to know who Pele was, but that's pretty good. And once in a while, somebody else who turns up too often in the newspaper, but I don't follow sport. If you ask me to write about music or dance or drama, I'm happy. I'm always learning about it. I always do it. So the question is, is it specific vocabulary you want them to learn? And is there something that they really want to learn, that they really care about? All right, let me go on for why is listening so difficult? Help. All right. This point I think one of you was making, I think Alejandro perhaps, it's hard to listen when you don't have much background knowledge about the subject or about the language. Okay. And again, your point, because there's such a heavy processing load, it's hard to concentrate. It's the hardest of skills. All right, I think I covered that. All right. Now, what we are going to be talking about is something you heard in the first lecture, not me, but in the first session. They called it self-direction. The most common psychology nowadays in therapy, you talk to anybody dealing with psychology, it's called self-regulation. In other words, learning how to control your own thoughts and emotions and learning. And if you talk to any therapist, this is where they're going. They ask questions so you can do it. And this is a formal definition. It's called the ability to deploy procedures and to access knowledge and beliefs in order to accomplish learning goals in a dynamically changing environment. So when you're listening, the environment is constantly changing. And we're going to talk about what procedures are. And we've talked about some of the knowledge we're going to add to the knowledge. And we're going to talk about goals. What we're going to work on first is something called SMART goal setting. How many of you have ever heard of SMART goal setting? Anybody? Anybody?
Not me.
Huh?
Not me.
Not you. All right, here's Javier, come back. All right, this is a very useful tool. I'm going to teach you.
Recording in progress.
What's that? Okay. So SMART goal settings means that students define their own goals, criteria for success, monitor their own learning, and evaluate their own learning. And they also incorporate feedback from your peers and teachers to become more aware of their own learning process. Okay, that's a lot to take in. Let's go on and get specific. Why is it important for learners to self-regulate their own learning? I'd like, what do you think about this little picture I have here? How much control does the guy who's under the strings, does he have any control? No, the guy who's moving, making all the decisions is the guy with, this is like a puppet, and he's sort of turning you this way and that way. You don't have any control. But notice in this picture, what does the puppet have in his hands? What does he have in his hands?
A pair of scissors.
A pair of scissors, exactly. So what we're trying to get to is not for the teacher to have all the control over the methodology, over the textbooks, over the subject, over the evaluation criteria, over everything, but rather to begin to have students self-regulate. Why is that important?
Because the student will be able to fix their own mistakes, you know,
Right.
do it better.
They'll be able to notice what's going on and figure out what their problems are and what some solutions. Yeah. And Adriana?
Then they will be able to continue learning, even there is not a person who directs them.
You get 3 stars.
Oh, nice.
That's exactly, they can continue learning. That's a goal that we all have, right? It's not just the few classes or subjects they have in school, but we know nowadays information is changing all the time, right? You're confronted with it. I'm in Panama for the first time. I've been here for 4 months. My learning curve was like this. Where do I get this? How do I establish a telephone? You know, what do I do about my bank account? All of these things, I have to be able to do that and figure out how to do it because it happens to us all the time. All the time, we are being asked to learn new things, figure out how to do things. So it's important for anyone and learners in a class to do that. Here's some other ideas I have. It gives learners a sense of control. Wow. You're dealing, many of you told, and what is it like to have a sense of control? When students come into your class and you're controlling everything, how do you feel? Like a child, right? You're like an infant. People often, grown men have said, oh, I feel like a child in a language class. That's not a good feeling if you're an adult. So it also makes learners more independent so that they can learn on their own. Some of you may know the word autonomy. This is a way to become more autonomous. That's a very popular word, especially in Europe. But it also improves your motivation, right? If you're in control, if you know how to do something, you're more, you're more interested, right? If you're just being fed information, what do I do with it? I don't know how to do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to be motivated. And it helps the learners to find what's my knowledge? What's my learning style? What are my problems and what are some solutions? What are my interests and goals? Any comments? Look back. What we were talking about in self-regulation is something which the literature calls metacognitive processes. Meta means thinking about thinking. Metacognitive. How do you think about your thinking? And usually consists of 3 processes or procedures. Remember we said procedures: planning, monitoring, and evaluating. It should be ING. Okay, so those are the 3 things that we are going to cover in our course. We're going to talk about planning for a couple of days. We're going to talk about monitoring and evaluating. Okay, just so you know where we're going. What does planning consist of? First of all, it's important to know why are you doing it. If it isn't relevant to you, you're not going to be very motivated. And we usually tell students why. Usually say what, or we don't say why. Humans like to know why. What am I going to do with this information? How am I going to use it? Some of it's ridiculous. Some of the stuff that's in textbooks is ridiculous. One of my favorite stories is my husband and I were walking in the streets of Istanbul, Turkey. A little kid about 8 or 10 years old comes up to me and says, "How old are you?" That's not appropriate for someone my age and someone his age. That's not his business. Maybe you think so, but I don't. Okay, so you need to establish your purpose. You want to set SMART goals, and we're going to work on that, which means, what are you going to do? We will work on task analysis, which is, what do we know about the task and what can we do about that? And finally, the action plan. How are you going, given all the things to do first and next? All right. What does anybody know what SMART stands for? Anybody? Okay, so we're going to learn something new. I hope you can. So nobody uses SMART goal setting in your language class. Okay, let's go on. Here is SMART goal setting. S stands for specific. Your goal. That's a very difficult thing to do, is to make it specific. We'll get to that. Now, normally, students think, oh, it's the grade. No, you have to have an objective measure to know whether you know something, not wait until a teacher gives you a test. You have to be able to know, to think about if you're talking about a test, what questions are they likely to ask? And what are the answers? You have to know, you have to have some measures. Achievable has to do with, do I have enough time? Given the goal. I have the knowledge. And if I don't have that knowledge, do I have time to go get it? And are there any special skills? R stands for relevant. I can't emphasize enough how important relevant is. It's not relevant. That's my story about writing about sports. It is not relevant to me, and I am not motivated. And then finally, you have the word time-based, and time-based has to do with having a frame within which you expect to accomplish your goals. Okay, let me give you, let's take another 15. Let me give you an example. I, for 40 years, have done Water. Anybody know what water aerobics is? Okay, Adriana, tell us what it is. Turn your mic
I
on.
mean, it's like exercising, but in the water.
Good. Yeah, it's a form of exercise you do in water. You do jumping jacks and you do rocking horse, and there's a whole bunch of exercises that you do in water. And I started doing that 30 years ago. And I would do it usually about 3 times a week. And one time I went to class and the teacher says, "What's your goal for today?" Up to class. No, why are you here? What do you do? Oh, what could be some goals? Why would you do water aerobics?
To be healthier?
Okay, I'd have that's true. Do you have any particular thing that how could I measure if I'm being healthier? What would be a measure?
The mobility.
You could move easily. Okay, that's good. What else would be a goal?
As a therapy professor, the people make water aerobics for therapy for some leisure in the
That has something to do with, flexibility of your muscles and that sort of thing. Some other possibilities could be to lose weight or have a better waist or not get so tired while you're walking. If you do some exercise, you might have more breath. Okay. And another one that's kind of interesting is this is usually a group of 20 or 30 women who are seniors who usually take water aerobics. There are exceptions, and so for many of us, it's a social thing to make friends. Okay. So what would be smart if let's say, if I want to lose 5 pounds, okay, lose weight, 5 pounds is the measure. Is it achievable? Well, how long do you think, go back to time, how long do you want to do it in a week? Can you do it in a week? That's too bad fast.
Yeah.
So you might want to try and given what your goal is, you might want to give yourself more time. That would be achievable. You might have some other things that say, well, I eat too much and I don't know how much exercise is going to help me. May not work. Is it relevant? It depends. What it depends on is how important is it to lose weight? Are you diabetic? Do you have a new party coming up and you want to get into your old dress? That's relevant. And the time, as I say, with my water aerobics, if I want to lose 5 pounds, maybe in a month, maybe. That's a smart goal. I want to move on to number 3 because I think you'll see what's going on. This was the husband of one of my master's students in Colombia. Okay, what's my specific goal? Pounds. How am I going to measure it? The measure should be something I can measure myself. Says, well, here's what I can do. I can measure my waist and note my weight today and see what it is in, how do I get this in a second? In a month. Okay? Right, I'll come back. Oh, well, I better close this off for the moment. Excuse me. All right. What abilities or knowledge do I need to reach my objective? Those are the questions you ask yourself. Do I have them? If I lack ability or knowledge, what can I do to get it? Well, the abilities and knowledge, he says, are persistence and discipline. I have 50% of these abilities, but I lack discipline. Many people. What I can do is establish weekly goals, right? Keeping in mind that my objective is to lose weight. I can also improve my meals at night and work out. I may need to find the right diet. So when he thinks about achievable, these are some things he can do to make it achievable. Is it relevant? Where and when would this achievement be useful for me? This, he says, the goal is related to my health and physical appearance. My shirts don't fit. And as a young executive, I need to pay attention to my presentation of myself, as this is an important element of my work. What about time? Thinking about bearing in mind my age, my prior knowledge and experience, and what I still need to know, how long will it take me to achieve my goal? It says 2 months. Can you see how useful SMART goals can be for people? Let me help. Why would you set goals? Well, direct your attention. Are not so anxious. Put me back there. Oh, when you accomplish your goals, you're more involved. You're not a passive person. You break the task down into manageable parts. I like this one because my husband and I have spent many years hiking. And we used to hike about 10 miles a day. And sometimes it was difficult. So he had a very interesting psychology. If I was getting tired, he'd say, that tree over there, can you get to that tree? Oh, yeah. How about the next tree? How about the rock? What he was doing was he was breaking the goals into much smaller. It wasn't the end of the trail, but it was small pieces. So there you can, if you make your task very specific and you make it manageable, because if you ask me, could I achieve that? I'm not sure. I'm too tired. I don't want to go any further. Get a helicopter. Get me out of here. Okay. Again, control. If you're an adult person, you want to feel in control and you feel more efficient. Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. That's back up. Oops. Where are we here? All right. Let's see. I want each of, let me see where, let me just see something. Let me go and see where we are. Okay, here, let's go to this one. Well, no, I'll back up. A whole bunch. I need to get to this later. Hold on. Here are my goals for today. I will present a clear definition of SMART. Did I do that? Does everybody know what SMART is? Okay. I will provide examples of my goals. I gave you a couple, water aerobics and this gentleman. And I will describe some benefits of promoting them in language. Is it measurable? Well, no, I don't know yet. Here's what I will use to measure, because I'm going to ask you to write some SMART goals. The audience will be able to create other examples demonstrating their understanding, and the audience will provide examples of the benefits of SMART goals. Achievable. I have considerable experience and knowledge about SMART goals. I think I can do it in an hour and a half to determine how much my audience knows about SMART goals. And I did determine that, and that makes that the time is going to be more because you don't know much about it. Is it relevant to me, not to the teacher, not to my parents or my husband, but to me? And here's my answer. I'm very interested in helping teachers use this strategy, and I'm very interested in learning how it applies to their context. Timeline, I have 2 hours to accomplish this. Any questions? Okay. It is now almost 3 o'clock. It's time for a break.
Yeah, Mrs. May I have a question, Mrs. Robin?
Yes, Javier.
Just I want to make sure I have an idea. I want to make sure the concept of SMART.
What do you want to know?
What is that for?
Have you been listening? Have you been with us, Javier?
Yes.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant timeline. That's what the SMART. That's an
okay.
acronym.
That's an acronym. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Acronym. Sorry,
Yeah,
I guess I
acronym.
didn't say that. It's an acronym. So the S of specific, the M of measurable, the A of achievable, the R of relevant, and the T of timeline.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, see you at 3:15. Have a good break.